Hello everyone, it's time for our Ecology Unit Part 1, Lesson 2, Organism Interactions and Ecosystems. So how do organisms interact with each other? Like, what in the world does the snake have to do with the ant? And what in the world does the ant have to do with the snake? We're about to find out. Don't forget, for all of those bold vocabulary words throughout, make sure you refer to your glossary. Your interactive glossaries are an amazing resource. Please use them to look up your bold vocabulary words, probably before you even go any further in this video. Alright, so we're going to talk about feeding relationships, especially with organisms today. How do organisms get energy? Last time you were at the grocery store, did you ever look in the produce section and wonder why is it called the produce section? Well, look at everything you find in the produce section. Fruits and vegetables, they're all plants. Plants are called producers. Producers make their own food. They produce their own food. Remember, plants can use sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide in order to make their own food. An example of a producer is any plant, like trees, grass, and algae. Look at this picture. See all the green grasses, the trees, and the water will be algae? All of those things are producers. They make their own food. Now let's talk about consumers. There are several different kinds of consumers. I'm sure you've talked about some of them back in elementary school when you were obsessed with dinosaurs. You talked about herbivores and carnivores, and was the dinosaur an herbivore or carnivore? Herbivores, examples today, are deer, rabbits, buffalo, and cows. These are things that only eat plants. Carnivore examples are wolves, fox, and sharks. Those are things that only eat meat. But there are some other special kinds of consumers too. Omnivores. Think about yourself as a human being. You eat meat sometimes, you eat plants sometimes. You're an omnivore, you can handle both. Well, so are bears. Bears are also omnivores. They can go into the stream and have a tasty fish for a meal, or they can eat nuts and berries off of trees. Another type of special consumer is a scavenger. Scavengers basically scan the area for leftovers. Things like vultures. Vultures don't go and attack and kill their own prey. They just wait for predators to leave the prey they've already had, and vultures come and kind of pick at the leftovers. Decomposers are things like fungi, mushrooms, worms, and some bugs like dung beetles. We tend to think of these type of consumers, these decomposers, as being really, really nasty and unnecessary, but in fact, decomposers are so important. Decomposers make sure they break down dead and decaying organisms and return all the nutrients back to the natural environment. Without decomposers, our world would look like a giant trash heap because nothing would rot away, ever. Ew. The next type of relationship we're going to talk about a little bit is predator-prey. I know we've already done some activities in class about this, but let's learn a little bit more. An example of a predator is a lion. An example of the lion's prey would be, in this case, a warthog. Animals can also be both predators and prey. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Lizards are predators of insects. But later on, those same lizards can become prey for something larger like a snake, or a bird like a hawk or an eagle. Let's go back to those lion and warthog examples to talk about how predator and prey populations are so much connected. When there are more available warthogs, it means there's going to be more food available for the lions. However, if the warthog are overhunted, so if we have too many predators in the area, then there's not going to be enough food or enough warthogs to go around. So then the warthog population will go down. Or what if there's not enough warthog to go around? Then the lions have to go find something else to eat. What if they start preying on more gazelle? What if they start preying on more water buffalo? Then those other populations are going to be affected. Predator and prey populations are very much connected. However, we can't talk about predators and prey, lions and warthogs, without watching an awesome animal carnage clip. So here is a lion tearing up a warthog.
Females do most of the hunting, while males rest and protect territory. To survive, lions rely on teamwork. A time-tested strategy will be used against the warthogs. One female will get as close as possible, and then drive the prey to another lurking in ambush.
Ooh, that warthog. He gone. Okay, so now we're going to talk more about how energy is transferred among organisms. So we know organisms need energy to survive, but how is that energy traveling through different organisms? Well, we show this traveling of energy and the flow of energy with something called a food chain. A food chain must always start with a producer, like a tree. Remember, it got its energy by making its own food. So now the tree is full of energy that it made. Well, then along comes an ant, and an ant eats the leaves from the tree. So now the energy from the tree is in the ant. Then along comes our lizard. The lizard then has the ant for a meal. The energy that was in the tree that was in the ant is now in the lizard. Then along comes a snake. So now the energy is in the snake. Again, this is called a food chain. A food chain shows the transfer of energy from organism to organism. So make sure you put this example on your paper. You don't have to draw all the pictures, but please at least write the words and draw the arrows, being very careful to show the arrows going in the correct direction. The energy from the tree goes into the ant. The energy from the ant goes into the lizard. The energy from the lizard goes into the snake. Next, we're going to talk about an energy pyramid. An energy pyramid is very important because it doesn't show the flow of energy, but it shows you how much energy is moved from level to level. At the bottom of every energy pyramid is a producer, something that makes its own food. It's the largest part because there's so much of it. As you move up the pyramid, there's going to be less and less energy available. Because what happens is this tree needs to grow. This tree does life processes. So all the energy it made, some of it is getting used up along the way. Then that energy goes into the ant. The ant has to move, the ant grows, the ant reproduces, and that takes energy, so less is available when it gets up to the lizard. The lizard moves, the lizard grows, less is available when it gets to the snake. As you go up the pyramid, there's less and less energy available. When you take a bunch of food chains together, it makes a food web. A food web shows all those feeding relationships, because we know that creatures out there eat more than one thing for its meal. Food webs. Global food webs connect land and water food webs. So let's make a basic one. On your paper, you're going to create the food chain we've been talking about, and then we're going to add some more things in. For example, Frogs can also eat ants. Snakes can also eat frogs. So we're showing more possible feeding relationships. On your paper, why don't you think of something else a frog can eat? Or maybe something else that eats a lizard? Or something else that might eat ants? Add in some of these things to turn your food chain into a food web. Maybe your finished food web will look something like this. Check out all those different feeding relationships. There's always lots of choices of what to eat. So that's why we need a food web. Well, that's all I have for you for tonight, folks. Please make sure you refer to your glossary for all the other terms, even those symbiotic relationships. I know you still have a little left on your paper, but the examples and the definitions in your interactive glossaries are fantastic. All right, make sure you have your notes done on time and have a great evening.